A known gang member charged in the of a 20-year-old Racine man, Deshaun Jones, was gunned down in an alley across from a police station just Sunday night.
Near Marquette and Albert Streets in Racine. Police say 16-year-old Tamarian Moss and his young cousins were walking back from the store when a car pulled up and at least 2 people got out and started shooting. Moss was shot at least 7 times in what prosecutors call an attempted execution.
Zontel Jr., who was 15 at the time of was found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide. He's going to be eligible for parole after serving 45 years.
If you live in Kenosha, Racine, and parts of northern Illinois, you might have seen hundreds of FBI agents and local police sweeping through neighborhoods, all targeting leadership in a gang called Maniac Latin Disciples.
Before dawn Thursday, members of the Racine County Metro Drug Unit hit the streets, targeting members of a drug trafficking organization calling themselves Bag Boys. They arrested 4 men who they say advertised their stash on Snapchat.
Lamarion Blair was in court today and pleaded not guilty to the 49 felony charges he's facing. Half of them are for bail jumping. The shooting happened at Graceland Cemetery. According to prosecutors, a gang dispute led up to the shooting.
Racine, Wisconsin is a Lake Michigan city with a proud industrial backbone, factory shifts, harbor winds, and neighborhoods built by generations of working families. It's home to global names like S.C. Johnson, a company founded in Racine that grew into one of America's best-known household brands, and it carries a legacy of innovation that even shows up in the skyline through Frank Lloyd Wright's iconic Johnson wax architecture. Racine has also produced famous names like Academy Award-winning actor Frederick March, who was born here, proof that this city's identity is bigger than any headline. But Racine also has another story, one that doesn't make postcards. When street crews, drug pipelines, and retaliation cycles collide, the city's conflicts can spill into everyday places, beaches, parking lots, neighborhood blocks, and even funerals. And in the cases tied to gang arrests, what you're really watching is the same pattern over and over. One incident sparks the next, fear spreads fast, and detectives end up racing time shell casings, surveillance clips, phone data, and witness statements trying to stop the violence from escalating again.
Friday afternoon, Graceland Cemetery was quiet, but it was a far different scene 24 hours earlier, as mourners were sent scrambling for cover. A barrage of bullets interrupted services for a man who was shot and by a Racine police officer nearly 2 weeks earlier. 37-year-old Deshante King was a Racine police officer during a traffic stop late last month. Police said there was a warrant to search the vehicle on a gun charge. After a short pursuit, police said King ran from the car, armed with a gun, and was shot by Officer Zachary Brenner after a foot chase. The state DOJ is investigating King's death. Racine police are investigating the shooting during King's burial. Police said multiple firearms were used in the shooting, but they haven't said how many people may have been involved in firing those weapons.
One of 2 people arrested in connection with the shooting at a cemetery in Racine last June is bound over for trial. Lamarion Blair was in court today and pleaded not guilty to the 49 felony charges he's facing. Half of them are for bail jumping. The shooting happened at Graceland Cemetery. According to prosecutors, a gang dispute led up to the shooting. 2 women were injured, both survived. Prosecutors say Blair's fingerprints and rifle shell casings were found with a vehicle that was at the scene.
The Graceland Cemetery shooting case happened in Racine, Wisconsin, and prosecutors say it began on June 2nd during funeral services for Deshante King, who investigators described as a 12th Street Gangster Disciples member. Authorities allege gunfire broke out while mourners were gathered at the cemetery, and multiple bystanders were struck. Prosecutors have said at least 2 people needed surgery after being shot, which is why the incident quickly escalated from a chaotic scene into a major felony investigation. Prosecutors connected to a gang dispute tied to a prior demise, and say at least 1 weapon involved may also be connected to other shootings in the Racine area. Witness accounts and evidence describe the shooters arriving in a black Chevy Equinox that was reportedly linked to Lamarion Blair's girlfriend. Officers also documented different casings tied to different locations: 40 caliber casings near the cemetery and 5.56 rifle casings later tied to activity near a Wright Avenue address that prosecutors described as affiliated with Northside for Life, which authorities characterized as an offshoot connected to the Vice Lords. Prosecutors also alleged the violence continued after the cemetery. They claimed data from the Equinox placed it near the cemetery when shots were fired, then showed it moving toward the Wright Avenue area and later to Quincy Avenue, where the SUV was found with what investigators described as fresh gunshot damage. Inside the vehicle, investigators reported finding rifle casings they say match evidence from the cemetery and other locations tied to the same sequence of events. Prosecutors have also described a wider shootout involving vehicles associated with people connected to the funeral, and they cite surveillance that they say shows Blair hiding nearby after later gunfire, something he reportedly acknowledged being present for while still denying he fired a weapon. Lamarion Blair is facing nearly 50 felony counts, including 23 counts of first-degree reckless endangering safety, 1 firearm possession count, and 25 counts of felony bail jumping. The same narrative says police initially announced Blair was arrested along with a 16-year-old.
A security camera caught the dramatic shooting last month near Marquette and Albert Streets in Racine. Police say 16-year-old Tamarian Moss and his young cousins were walking back from the store when a car pulled up and at least 2 people got out and started shooting. Moss was shot at least 7 times in what prosecutors call an attempted execution. But court records indicate Moss was not the intended target. Instead, investigators believe 18-year-old Xavier Jackson shot Moss in retaliation for the death of Eugene Henderson, a 14-year-old shot in Racine last month. The complaint states, quote, "It is believed Jackson and the other shooters mistakenly identified TM as an NFL gang member and believed he was involved in EH's death. However, TM had nothing to do with EH's death and is not a gang member." Court documents state the car shown in this video was stolen and Jackson crashed it nearly a week after the shooting in Zion, Illinois, where he was caught.
An 18-year-old Racine man, Xavier Jackson, was charged after prosecutors say a 16-year-old boy was ambushed on Albert Street while walking home from a store with family members. Investigators said a Jeep pulled up, at least 2 shooters jumped out and opened fire, and Moss was hit repeatedly. Family said he was shot around 10 times and needed multiple surgeries. Authorities described it as retaliation for the demise of Eugene Henderson about a week earlier, but they also said Moss was likely mistaken for someone else and was not a gang member. Police said a major break came from home security video that captured the attack and helped them identify the license plate. Investigators later spotted the same vehicle, chased it into Illinois, and the pursuit ended near Zion after the vehicle crashed. Jackson was arrested, while 2 other people reportedly ran and were not caught at the time. Police said they recovered 2 guns, believed to be tied to the shooting, and noted 1 gun was linked to other incidents.
The Racine teen convicted for murdering a 16-year-old boy is sentenced to life in prison. Zontel Jr., who was 15 at the time of was found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide. He's going to be eligible for parole after serving 45 years. Quentin Smith was shot in August of 2022. A witness told police Jr. said he was going to shoot Smith because the 2 were connected to rival gangs.
Quentin Smith was shot in the head and met his demise near 19th Street and D. Coven Avenue in Racine on August 12, 2022, and prosecutors said the shooting grew out of a gang-related dispute involving teens in that area. Zontel Jr., 15 at the time, was arrested and charged with first-degree intentional deletion, Wisconsin's top-level deletion charge, which carries a mandatory life sentence if convicted. The case went to trial in Racine County, and on July 21, 2023, a jury found Zontel Jr. guilty of first-degree intentional deletion after a roughly 2-week trial. That guilty verdict is what officially shifted him from accused to convicted. In this case, the publicly named defendant is Zontel Jr., and he was later sentenced to life in prison, with the court setting parole eligibility after 45 years, meaning he can't even be considered for release until that minimum is served.
Before dawn Thursday, members of the Racine County Metro Drug Unit hit the streets, targeting members of a drug trafficking organization calling themselves Bag Boys. They arrested 4 men who they say advertised their stash on Snapchat. Officers busted up drug houses on 5 blocks, including St. Clair, Green, William, Marquette, and Victory. In custody are Zachary Zavala, Treston Manor, Anthony Eaton, and Joe D. Espinosa Jr. Authorities say 3 other men are tied to the case and have felony warrants out for their arrest, including Alec Babinski, Amonte Underwood Givens, and Xavier Cruz.
For an 8-month investigation, Racine County authorities say they tracked a local drug trafficking crew known as the Bag Boys, accusing the group of advertising drugs through a Snapchat-style menu and moving product through multiple locations around the city. Investigators said they built the case with controlled buys, surveillance, and digital evidence, then executed search warrants in mid-October that led to multiple arrests and additional warrants for other suspects. Police allege the operation involved sales of marijuana products and pills, along with firearms-related activity tied to certain defendants, painting the picture of a group using social media to reach buyers fast while staying mobile across different addresses. Zachary Zavala was reported to have entered a no-contest plea and received 3 years of probation with 1 year in the Racine County Jail as a condition. Alec Babinski was reported to have entered a no-contest plea and was sentenced to 18 months in prison, followed by 5 years of extended supervision. Ashley Underwood Givens was reported to have entered a no-contest plea and received 3 years of probation with 8 months in jail as a condition. Treston Manor was reported to have entered a no-contest plea and received 2 years of probation with 8 months in jail as a condition. And Xavier Cruz was reported to have pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 7 years in prison, followed by 4 years of extended supervision.
A known gang member charged in the murder of a 20-year-old Racine man, Deshaun Jones, was gunned down in an alley across from a police station just Sunday night.
That they saw him coming down this alley right here behind me to the point where Deshaun Jordan was. Now, according to the criminal complaint, Jordan and 4 friends were walking back from a fish fry. They told police someone unknown to them started firing, and they took off running. Now, another friend was hit in the elbow and also grazed in the stomach, but he got away. Now, Earl told police that he thought the men had a gun, but says that they never shot at him. And he also did ask police who had been. Police assured him that it was not a member of a gang.
Deshaun Jordan METHIS demise in a gang-related shooting in Racine, Wisconsin, near 16th Street and Phillips Avenue, after he and a group were walking back from a fish fry when gunfire erupted from assailants in the alley. Prosecutors say the shooters were aiming at rival gang members in the group, and at least 2 other people were hit. Reported injuries included an elbow wound and a graze near the stomach area. As everyone scattered in panic, some didn't even realize Jordan had been struck until he was found with a fatal head wound. Ritual Earl Jonathan Bell, an Alani person, court filings describe person as a key witness associate. That night, he told investigators he got into a vehicle with Bell, saw a handgun, and later linked up with Earl. He said they drove around the 16th Street area looking for Dirty Peas, described as rivals, waited in an alley, then parked near 16th and Phillips before Bell and Earl got out and shots were fired. Investigators also pointed to physical evidence at the scene, including different calibers of casings, and other digital evidence, including messages about ammunition, as part of the probable cause picture. Prosecutors have publicly said 2 of the 3 charged were gang members targeting rivals.
You might have seen hundreds of FBI agents and local police sweeping through neighborhoods, all targeting leadership in a gang called Maniac Latin Disciples. The major cause was drug trafficking in the areas, mainly coming from across the border. Police netted 28 arrests while seizing drugs, firearms, ammunition, and around $85,000 in cash. and a majority of those arrested faced charges of conspiracy to distribute narcotics. However, after this sweep, 2 leaders in this gang have yet to be found. These 2 men are considered armed and dangerous.
Described in this Maniac Latin Disciples takedown wasn't a single drug bust. It was a year-long gang task force case that ended with pre-dawn raids across Racine, Kenosha, and into northern Illinois, aimed at breaking what investigators called a violent drug trafficking enterprise with ties back to Illinois. In the October 6, 2016 roundup, officials said 14 search warrants were executed and 26 people were arrested on a mix of state and federal charges. According to law enforcement briefings reported that day, investigators said the MLDs had built a grip on parts of southeast Wisconsin by moving drugs in bulk, using intimidation violence, and allegedly being tied to multiple shootings. During the searches, authorities reported seizing a large haul of evidence, including handguns, ammunition, body armor, vehicles, cash, and significant amounts of drugs. Coverage described 40+ pounds of marijuana and cocaine in one report and 80+ pounds plus meth pills in another, reflecting what different outlets summarized from the press conference.
Earlier tonight, police got the call just before 7:30 this evening. We were here within the hour, seeing a large police presence in the parking lot just next to North Beach. Witnesses who were already leaving the area at the time of the shooting tell me they heard 20 to 30 gunshots go off, and Racine police have confirmed that at least 4 people have been shot. Parents on scene tell me that the majority of the people who were here at that time of the shooting were minors.
We're going to have to initiate a mass casualty incident. We do have 4 individuals with gunshot wounds here on North Beach.
On the evening of June 2, 2020, a crowded summer scene at North Beach in Racine, Wisconsin turned into a mass casualty shooting when a confrontation in the parking lot escalated into gunfire with dozens of bystanders nearby. Police and prosecutors alleged the clash grew out of a rivalry between Racine crews identified in charging documents as Northside for Life, NFL, and Dirty P, and that once the arguing spilled across the lot, multiple people began shooting, leaving 5 victims wounded, including one with a life-threatening chest injury. A group of NFL youths gathered near the playground parking area, and 2 Dirty P members arrived and parked a truck nearby. The complaint said NFL members were seen grabbing at their waistbands, as if armed, as the 2 men walked away and then back toward their vehicle. When the Dirty P pair returned to the truck, they were followed by NFL members, and the truck was allegedly vandalized, people jumping on the hood and damaging it before the driver tried to pull away, colliding with parked vehicles. Prosecutors said the shooting started in that chaotic moment, with gunfire exchanged as the truck lunged forward and people scattered. The case against Dashari Watson focused on video identification and the claim he fired toward the truck. Watson, who authorities described as an NFL member, went to trial and was convicted. Later court records reflect he received a 26-year sentence, 13 years of initial confinement followed by 13 years of extended supervision for his role in the shooting. The case against Thomas Burton Jr., also alleged to be NFL, was prosecuted separately and moved later into a plea posture. In an update reported years after the shooting, Burton reached a plea agreement in which he pleaded guilty, and the state dismissed several other counts as above is the plea and sentencing scheduled stage. As for the other people involved, the initial reporting and complaint language indicated additional shooters were seen near the truck and that several others, including minors, were charged in connection with the incident. In Racine, Wisconsin, investigators say a 10-month narcotics probe ended on Thursday, November 10, 2022, when the Racine County Metro Drug Unit and a violent crime task force executed 2 search warrants tied to alleged Fendi pill trafficking. Authorities identified the suspect as Caleb Band Gang Weaver, describing him as a convicted felon and alleging he was dealing Fenty-laced fake oxy tablets along with marijuana. According to law enforcement's account, agents traced alleged sales activity to residences in the 1100 block of Marquette Street and the 4000 block of 17th Street in Racine then hit both locations the same afternoon. During the searches, officials reported seizing 3,622 Fendi lace counterfeit Oxy pills, which they said equaled about 16 ounces of Fendi, 2.4 pounds of Mary, 2 handguns, ammunition, digital scales, packaging materials, multiple phones, and $15,200 in cash. Investigators also claimed Weaver was selling the pills for about 8 to 12 each, putting the seized tablets in a $30,000 to $40,000 street value range. Weaver was arrested and booked into the Racine County Jail, where officials said he was being held on a $75,000 cash bond at the time of the initial reports. Orlando Carlos's Racine case is being framed by prosecutors as a repeat drug trafficking investigation built on multiple controlled buys and a pattern of alleged street-level dealing while he was already known to the system. Investigators say an agent with the Racine County Sheriff's Office Metro Drug Unit arranged several purchases through a confidential informant over months, and that Carlos, identified in the complaint as tied to the Imperial gangsters out of Chicago, was selling drugs while out on parole. The complaint describes sales that included Mary and coke, with at least one buy allegedly happening at a church near 6th Street and Kinsey Avenue, and it paints Carlos as someone who moved product from more than one Racine address, including locations on Marquette Street and 17th Street. Based on that investigation, Carlos was charged with 4 counts of manufacturing/delivering Mary, 4 counts of maintaining a drug trafficking place, and manufacturing/delivering coke. Prosecutors also emphasized that he's a repeat offender. In the early morning hours of Saturday, November 1st, prosecutors say a believed-to-be gang-related ambush unfolded near 10th Street and Park Avenue, ending with Seer Ty Pearson being rushed to the hospital and dying from his gunshot wounds. According to the criminal complaint, the victim was riding in a blue Honda when the occupants realized they were being followed. The driver reported seeing a white Dodge Durango pull alongside them as if trying to identify who was inside, and moments later, gunfire erupted. Investigators say surveillance footage and other evidence helped them identify the Durango and the people connected to it, and the complaint describes the shooting as retaliation tied to a broader Northside versus Southside gang conflict in Racine. 3 defendants are now charged as party to a crime in connection with both the fatal shooting and an attempted deletion: Chiheen Davis, Isaiah M.C. Lorne, and Jaron Smith. All 3 face first-degree intentional deletion and attempted first-degree intentional deletion charges. Reporting on the same investigative window says a separate deletion at Chicken Palace, November 2nd, was viewed as retaliation for Ty Pearson's death, underscoring how quickly one shooting can trigger another in an escalating cycle. When you line these cases up, drug busts built on long investigations, shootings tied to rival crews, and scenes where innocent bystanders get caught in the crossfire, the details change, but the core stays the same: access to guns, money and narcotics, and disputes that turn into get back. Some defendants end up facing decades, some cases stall in pretrial battles, and some remain allegations until court decides what's proven, but the impact on the community is immediate either way. And that's the part that matters most. Behind every gang arrest headline is a neighborhood trying to live normal life: kids at the beach, families driving home, people gathering to mourn while chaos threatens to break out in seconds. Racine's story isn't only what happened, it's what happens after. The pressure on witnesses, the fear of retaliation, and whether the city can break the chain before the next shooting writes the next chapter.